Hello and welcome back to another Kids Talk Sports video. Today we're going to be going over the first week of college football, starting with Michigan, of course, and then we will be going briefly over some of the other top games. So Abe, start us off with the Michigan versus Western Michigan game. So Abe, start us off with the first game, Michigan versus Western Michigan.
So I think the two things I really wanted to see coming into the game were how would Cade McNamara do against in his first official season, COVID season last year. We didn't really see much from him, but I want to see how he did, and I also wanted to see how the defense would do, coming with the new defensive coordinator, Mike Macdonald, who was a linebackers coach for the Ravens. I wanted to see how the defense would do and how it would look, because Don Brown, our former defensive coordinator, was there for 4 years. So now we're in with a new system. So maybe I thought we would do good. And it turns out we did really good, because it was 47-14, I think was the final score. And I thought that some of the key players, I think Aiden Hutchinson did really good, kept getting pressure onto the quarterback. Also, Daxton Hill was all over the field, getting past deflections. And I think if you talk about overall, I think Daxton Hill is our best player, because he's able to rush the passer, guard whoever you want. I think so. Daxton Hill, I'm hoping that he'll have a breakout season this year along with Aiden Hutchinson. As for Cade McNamara, I think he also did really good. I think he threw for 2 touchdowns. And I think the main thing there wasn't a lot of pressure on him, because you had the running game going really well. Blake Corum had 2 touchdowns. Hassan Haskins had a touchdown. AJ Henning had a end around for a touchdown that was, super long. Also, I think you don't want to get too overexcited over this one game. Once again, it's Western Michigan.
Yep,
And
I was just gonna say that. See, because exactly. But again, though, that it looked like literally we were doing good on every single front. Like you're saying, McNamara, he was 9 for 11 or something, super efficient. Running Corum and Haskins did insane. Corum especially.
I like Corum. I like Corum.
Yeah.
He had this really good burst.
The defense looked good, but obviously, again, it was Western Michigan. But yeah, honestly though, I feel like if we're not ranked inside the top 20 after this game, I'd be surprised, because it was on national television, I believe. So yeah, overall, honestly, I'm a lot more excited about this season than last, considering how we're starting off.
Mm-hmm. Also, one thing I'd also like to add, it was nice to see the bench come in, just because if somebody gets COVID, then you know that they're ready to come up. JJ McCarthy had an insane touchdown pass from one side of the field to the other, which don't do that ever again, because that's the last thing you want to do. Throw across the field.
What Mahomes does, but
but it was a really good throw. But it was just nice to see the bench come in, because you never know, somebody might get COVID, and then you will have to step up. If, for example, if Cade gets COVID, we don't want that to happen, but if that does happen, we have to you have to step up and be ready. And also, the final thing I wanted to say was Ronnie Bell is done for the season. He did really good, and the first game before injuring his knee. I don't know if he's a junior or senior, but maybe he can come back next year, hopefully, because then the team will be more and more experienced than last season, and he'll be a leader, because he's our captain. A captain going down is not very good. So hopefully, he can return. If not, I really liked you coming to Michigan. I mean, maybe you can make a return if you work hard, but I guess maybe not.
Yeah. All right. So we'll go to the next game then. So
no, it wasn't this one.
It was quite interesting. Well, this one, Alabama versus Miami. There's a couple of things to talk about. I guess the first thing, Abe can get more into it, but the QB for Alabama, I believe his name's Bryce Young or something, kind of popped off. And me and Abe were talking about even before the video how we didn't know how Alabama would replace Mac Jones and all of their previous QBs, including Tua and Jalen Hurts. You had extremely high expectations, and he came through against a pretty decent team. So, Abe, what else do you have to say?
Yeah, you kind of touched on it. I think Bryce Young did really good. I think he set a record for Alabama debut or something.
Yep.
And it was a lot of new players because you had a couple of the obviously you had Mac Jones go to the Patriots at 15. You had a couple of linemen go. Obviously Jalen Waddle went to the Dolphins in the top 10, and then also DeVonta Smith went to the Eagles in the top 10. Your two top receivers also left. So it was more of lack of experience and seeing how they would do. And as for Miami, I mean, I think Miami's a good team, but there's just a whole different standard when it comes to Alabama. Like they're just all the way up there compared to Miami. I think they're still a really good team, but I think De'Ara King, the quarterback for Miami, he had just come off an ACL injury, and it was I wanted to see how he would do coming back from last season because they ended up in the top 20, I think, for last year. So relatively good season, but it's just Alabama. They're on a whole different level than everybody else in the country. So, I thought it was a good win, like a really good win. It was 44-13, which is a blowout. Like they almost scored as many points as Michigan did, and we played a MAC school. They played a Power 5 school. So, I think it's just the normal Alabama just destroy everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next game we have Oklahoma versus Tulane. This was kind of interesting. I'll just start off. Spencer Rattler, I'm pretty sure before the
he's like a
season,
mock top 5 pick, I think, for next year.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure he's projected he's a top Heisman runner or something too. So obviously high expectations for him, and his stats look pretty good besides 2 interceptions. But that's just because what is he, a freshman or what?
He's a sophomore, I think.
Sophomore, so that's fine. And then they ended up getting the W, but not by much. So
yeah, the score was 40-35, which I mean Tulane, I think
it's kind of concerning.
It's concerning because they did the same thing last year. If you guys remember, because they they ended up losing to Kansas State, but it was the same story except Spencer Rattler was a freshman. He ended up throwing a bunch of he had a bunch of turnovers last season and the start of the season, and then that ended up to them losing to Kansas State and also Iowa State, which ended up taking him out of the playoffs because they won they won the rest of the games, but they had 2 losses, so they weren't. If you have 2 losses, it's kind of hard to get in. So you don't want to go down this path where you have a rocky start and then have to work super hard to try to get your way back in, because they were ranked number 2 in the country over teams like Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia. But so there was high expectations coming in. If you're going to play you can't play like this against other teams. I know it's Tulane, and I know that you're way more talented than them, but there are going to be other teams that are going to be better than them, and then you have to be you just have to be more I guess more perfect, or more, you have to have better execution. So
yeah. Okay, so the next game we have Penn State versus Wisconsin. This one was actually a lot closer and more exciting. Well, if you like defense, but so yeah, Ave, start us off.
I thought, well, I didn't really get to say a lot of the game, but I did see the highlights because this was going on around the same time as the Michigan game. But I thought that, I'm actually pretty high on Penn State because they ended off the season really well last year. I know they were 0-5, but then they ended up being Michigan. They ended up beating Michigan State, and I think they ended up being another team. But they ended off the season really well. And I thought they were going to do really good this year. I think I have high expectations for them. And for Wisconsin, I was a little concerned because I know Graham Mertz, that first game last year, the people thought he looked like Patrick Mahomes out there or whatever. And then they had the COVID situation. But coming into this game, they were ranked 12 or something, and Penn State was 19.
Yeah, that was crazy. I knew that was
that was a little over because.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is this was a really good defensive battle. It ended up being 0-0 at halftime. And the final score ended up being 16-10 Penn State. But the more concerning thing was you only scored one time coming into the red zone, and you had 4 opportunities, which is not what you want. Because like you have to be able to convert in the red zone if you're going to be a really good team. But give credit to Penn State because they made it tough on Graham Mertz, and that defense was really, they were
Yep.
like,
And I believe there
it was
was
like they
an
knew every play.
interception at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that just shows how clutch the defense was the whole game. But
Also, I just want to say something like it's just nice to have real fans back.
Yeah.
And it's just a better game and a better environment.
yeah,
and
I
there's more
think it
excitement to the
motivates
game.
the players more too. So
Yeah.
yeah, anyways, okay, next game. Okay, so the next game we have Indiana versus Iowa. Not as exciting as the Penn State Wisconsin, but there's
Yeah.
still a lot to talk about. So Abe, start us off.
I wasn't gonna put this game, but I mean, it was a top 20 matchup with Indiana being 17 and Iowa being 18. One of the questions I had was how would Penix return from the ACL injury last year, because he was doing really good, almost beat Ohio State, who ended up being the runner-up for the national championship. And it was just like one of the best Indiana football seasons ever. So we want to see how they looked. But I think Iowa, it's really hard to win there, and especially fans coming back for the first time in about 2 years in a place like that. Like, it's so hard to win there. Whatever team you are, it's just so hard to win there. And then with the thing of fans coming back, and it was just hard. I think the final score ended up being 34-6 Iowa. So
Yeah.
I think the main question we had was how would Penix return, and I think he didn't end up doing that good. But
Yeah. I really don't have much to say about this game besides just overall the Big Ten had a bunch of ranked teams, and it's just I understand Michigan not being ranked, but that's just disrespectful to have that many teams ranked in the top 25.
if you're going to talk
like-
about that, though, I think just a quick note, SEC gets a lot of teams, but they're deserving of it because
yeah,
Alabama, Georgia,
like-
LSU, Florida,
like Wisconsin 12, that was just like, as much as I like the Big Ten being respected.
I like the Iowa thing, but the Indiana thing, it was just
Yeah,
I think it's just a 1-year wonder for them.
Yeah, but honestly, I can't be mad though because Michigan's always ranked super high at the beginning and then choke. So yeah. Anyways, next game. All right, so the next game we have is Montana versus Washington. Washington is Michigan's next opponent, so
That's the main reason this was in here.
yeah.
But
And obviously, if you didn't watch the game, Washington lost, so that's quite interesting. So Ave, start us off.
I think it's just plain sad that you lose to a team called Montana. Like you're a Power 5 school. You're a really good college. You're ranked you're ranked. You're number 20 in the nation, and you didn't even score double digits. You scored 7 points, and Montana scored 13. Like I think the defense is really good. 13 points is what you expect. Like that's like the most they should score. But the most you should score for Washington's like it should be in the 40s. It should have been a blowout. And now, next game is in prime time versus Michigan, and I think when Michigan had won, I thought they're gonna make Michigan ranked, and then I thought Washington was gonna win. It was like a 95. I was just thinking Washington's gonna win. There's no way they lose. So I was thinking that they're gonna make Michigan ranked and Washington ranked because it's national television, prime time, whatever. They want to make it look good, ranked teams, whatever. But now that Montana lies, it's just gonna be either it's going to be a lower ranked team versus a non-ranked team, or just non-ranked teams in general. It's like, but it's just sad that you lose to Montana if you're just a college that's a Power 5 school. And I don't know if I have any more notes, but like it was you just needed to win for it to be a good matchup, but they just didn't end up winning.
See, so I look at this from two sides. I'm like, dang, now Michigan, if they win against Washington, it's not as respected. But then I'm like, if they lose to Montana, then this should be a free win for Michigan, and I will take a free win. So
that's what I thought too. But then last year, Michigan State lost to Rutgers the first week, and then we ended up losing.
Yeah.
Like I remember we made a video about that, and we said, "Oh yeah, we should beat them. We should crush them." But and you have to take it one game at a time. And like on the side for Michigan, like you don't want to overlook Washington because they're still a Power 5 school.
Mhm.
And if you look at it from a different perspective, they're going to be more angry to win. They
Yep,
want to.
exactly,
So
exactly. I was just about to say that they're
yeah,
gonna
so you
be.
you still want to keep your focus on Washington, and it's
Mhm.
not like they're playing. It's not like they're playing a really good school like Illinois or whatever. They're playing Northern Illinois next week. There's nothing to look forward to, but you still got to keep your eyes on the prize, which is Washington.
Yep. All right. So next game, LSU
It
versus
works.
UCLA. Yeah, work. So, this one, I'll just start us off.
Um, I just wrote down a bunch of notes. I'm looking at my notes right now, but so basically, the main reason I thought that so for the people who didn't know the score, it was 38-27 UCLA, so that UCLA ended up winning. So I thought that the reason UCLA won is because they ended up actually playing in week 0 against Hawaii, and that's when Charbonnet had like 3 touchdowns and they crushed them 45-3 or whatever the score was. So they ended up actually playing, so they had a little more experience other than LSU, because this is really LSU's first game. So there was a lot more experience for the UCLA team, like in terms of actually playing, because they hadn't played for a while. So like what I'm saying is UCLA had like a little warm up coming into this game. But LSU still ended up being ranked, but they had to travel all the way to California from Louisiana, which is a long trip, and it's a little. Sometimes it can take a toll on you how far you travel. So I thought that UCLA. I'm actually kind of getting. I'm a little excited to see what UCLA has in store, because they look really good.
Yep, I agree with that.
And I think this is kind of a thing where if you buy into the system, because the coach is Brian Kelly, and this is his 4th year now with a senior quarterback. So maybe they can, maybe this is the year where they come back, because UCLA isn't really. I mean, other like in terms of football, and I know in basketball they went to Final Four, they beat us, whatever. I don't want to talk about that right now. But in terms of football, they haven't really done anything good.
Yeah, I think they're kind of similar to Michigan in a way. I'm not trying to screw up Michigan for the rest of the season, but like you said, UCLA hasn't been very good recently. So to beat LSU, obviously a pretty good team, especially since they were recently good. That's pretty impressive. So, I mean, I don't really have much more to say on this game. I don't know what happened to LSU. I remember watching the end. And yeah,
I wasn't really watching this game because at the same time Clemson Georgia was going on. So
yeah,
I mean, I watched a little bit, and I thought LSU. I thought it was going to be closer than this, just because you had a team which it was our first game, and I didn't think UCLA would be like this good. But they ended up there. Now they're 2-0, and LSU's 0-1. So maybe this is the year for them.
Yep. Okay, so the next game we have is Ohio State versus Minnesota. This was a very interesting game because it was close for a while, and then of course Ohio State pulled away, kind of like they always do when they're in tough situations. So Abe, what do you have to say?
I think we also talked about this like off camera, or like off like recording or whatever, but we talked about how the quarterback CJ Stroud would have to fill the shoes of Justin Fields, who was honestly, if you think about it, one of the more better quarterbacks in recent memory for Ohio State, because I mean, he didn't win a ring for them or anything, but it was like, talent wise, he was really good. So you have CJ Stroud. He hadn't even thrown a pass coming into this game, like not one pass. So it was a lot of questions around how he would do in his first game in a tough environment in Minnesota. It's not like it's a team like a lower end school. This is a Power 5 school, a Big Ten matchup, week 1. So we want to see how they did, and they ended up doing really good. I mean, he had a couple mistakes, or like a couple interceptions early on, but then he got settled in and threw a couple of touchdowns. On the Minnesota side, I think Ibrahim, the Minnesota running back, did really good. I think honestly, if you think, I don't know how his injury is, because I know he got injured, which ended up how Ohio State pulling away. But I think he's depending on his injury, if he's back or not, he could be like a guy to watch over the season, because he can do whatever you want. He's fast. He can run the wildcat. He'll run you over, run out like he'll run past you, and not like Ohio State's still a really good team. And for I don't know if you know the score for the viewers, it was 45-31 Ohio State. So it's not like it was any lack of scoring on in Minnesota's end because Ibrahim, I think he ended up running, he ran 30 times and 2 touchdowns. 30 times is a lot. Like they were literally just saying, here, carry us, and they put the load on him. So I think that he had a really good game, but Ohio State's just too much talent on that side, offense and defense. I don't like a lot of people think that Ohio State's receiving core is it's like one of the best or the best in the country. So I thought I just wanted, when I was watching the game, I just want to see how CJ Stroud would do, in his first game.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep it short. I was surprised by how the game was going because I was watching the end kind of when it was still tied. And then, or like going back and forth. And it sucked because obviously I hate Ohio State. Minnesota, like, kind of like the Notre Dame game. Minnesota, like they were right there. They had the chance, and then of course Ohio State just came through. So I don't think Ohio State has to worry about this at all. It was their first game back, so they're still going to be perfectly fine.
Yeah, and also I like it. It was actually kind of like the first time we saw Ryan Day in a close game, like actually see him coach, because he's never lost a Big Ten game. Think about that. It's been now 2 years maybe?
Yeah.
Between like after Urban Meyer, he's never lost a Big Ten game. So this is really the first game where it's like, yeah, he's actually coaching. Because it was more like the wins that was happening for Ohio State is based on talent, because they have really good talent. But this is really the first game where we've actually seen some coaching for him, where it's like, here's what you need to do and change up the game plan. Because I think they were down going into halftime.
Yeah, I think they were.
So it was a little there was a little like it was the first time we actually got to see him coach, because most of the games that we've seen Ohio State in the Big Ten, they've been blowouts. Like in the Big Ten, because playoff is a different story, but in the Big Ten, it's a little different. So we got to see real coaching from him for the first time.
Okay, so the last game we have, a very interesting game again at Clemson versus Georgia. Honestly,
this was more the prime time game.
Yeah, but honestly, it didn't live up, honestly, in my opinion. It wasn't like, I guess it was a more defensive game for people that like that, but yeah, Abe, what do you have on this game?
Okay, so this is a lot of these games are how does the quarterback fill in the shoes of the previous quarterback? We had Bryce Young trying to fill in the shoes of Mac Jones. We had CJ Stroud trying to fill in the shoes of Justin Fields and like that. So in this game, it was more of how will DJ, I think his name's like Uiagalelei or something, but I'm just going to call him DJ because I'm not trying to like murder his name. But it was how would he, because I know he played Notre Dame last year in the first matchup, and they ended up losing, but he ended up playing like really good. They took him to double OT. But it was more of how would he do it? Could he do it consistently? Could he be a starting quarterback consistently, game by game by game by game? And Georgia's not the team that you want to play week one if you're like a full-time starter.
That was interesting to me that they would do that, but
yeah, but I think there used to be a rivalry or something, so I guess maybe there's some story behind that. But Georgia is not the team you want to play if this is the first game that you're really being a full-time starter, and you got to deal with what you got to deal with. So that's take me on to my next point, which was both defenses. Both defenses played really good. Georgia had 7 sacks in this game. Clemson allowed 20 total last year. They almost had half the sacks they allowed in one game. So it gives me a little worry about Clemson's O-line and more importantly, the quarterback, because the O-line is supposed to protect the quarterback. But, I mean, once again, it's Georgia, one of the top teams in the nation, and it might And Georgia, I might honestly take the bump up to number 2 because Oklahoma didn't look that good. And obviously Clemson was 3, so Clemson just lost. And Ohio State was a little concerning too, like according to the final score. So Georgia might make the bump up to number 2. And the thing is with games like these, top 5 games, you can't make a lot of mistakes. And in this case, he made one mistake, and it ended up being the game deciding factor, which was a pick 6. The final score was 10-3 Georgia. If he doesn't throw that pick 6, there's a whole different story. And that's why you can't make mistakes in these top 5 because these teams are so good that you cannot make mistakes.
Yep. All right. So I feel like you summed it up well. Yeah, honestly, it's hard to live up to Trevor Lawrence. So obviously there are high expectations, but yeah, it was an interesting game starting off with Georgia, who you know is going to be good. So yeah, it was definitely like you said, like if you make one mistake,
it was a hard game to watch. If you watch the highlights, you think, oh, this is not that bad, but it was hard to watch.
All right, so yeah, that's it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Make sure to share, like, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.